I'm Poe. This is
No, welcome to the DaPoNoPodcast.
There we go. There we go.
So we're going to pivot today, man. Well, it was just kind of interesting. We had planned to fill episode 2. Thank you for all of those who have discovered us already. And
Thank you so much, yes, for all the views.
Yeah,
and the comments we're getting from people. Thank you.
It's been so positive and so encouraging. So that just makes us want to continue to do this and continue to learn, continue to do better. So we started having a conversation in preparation
for this episode.
Yep. And we just got into just kind of one of our conversations, our brotherly conversations about just life, about dealing with life. And you had expressed, something, and
well, ask the question. I'll tell you what it was about, man.
Well, I just asked how you were doing, and you had basically said that you had been just struggling like you normally do. And so I thought in my mind, I'm like, okay, so if this is normal, there should be some patterns. That's the way I've been trying to work through my own stuff. What are the thoughts? What are the things that happen that get you to the point that you feel unmotivated to do the things that you know you want to do, but yet somehow it's either got to be something along the lines of like paralysis by analysis. You get overwhelmed by the multitude of how much stuff there is to do. But like we were kind of discussing, I feel like 99% of the time, the things that we're anxious about and that we worry about are never as bad as we make them out to be. So I'm trying to help you like find these like triggers in your mind of like, okay, I'm starting to go down that crappy thought process. What are the starting thoughts that get me going down that pattern or whatever, or like, what is it that you think causes you to kind of just not want to take action?
So just to give some people some context too about what he's alluding to. So, and I like these conversations we have because it takes a very big dose of vulnerability.
Yeah.
To have these conversations. And I urge you guys out there, male or female, you got to have these conversations with someone. Just hopefully you find someone that you are confident in or a small group of friends. I've got a good small group of friends that, I'm not related to, but damn it, they're family anyways. They know who they are. And, I'm not going to take everything to them, but there are some things that I'll take to them that maybe I don't have the opportunity to take to you and vice versa. But I mean, we see each other a lot more than I see those friends. So you are who I lean in on times when I may be having an episode or something like that. And then we break down my stuff. So first off, I'm a very analytical person. I don't care what it is we have to do. I think about the how. Like, how are we going to get this done? I am a dream caster as well, but that dream can immediately get once I start looking at, okay, well, what's it going to take for me to do that? And I think that mentality of trying to break things down to the simplest common denominator came from my sales background with Aflac, because it was all about, all you had to do was get 2 appointments. Well, what does 2 appointments get you? And then you just multiply it out, and then you eventually get to how many people you need to see on a daily basis, depending on your closing, your ability to close them on just an appointment. And then of those appointments that you get, how many become businesses? You finally get a thought of what activity you need to do. Now, granted, some days are going to be better than most. You go and see 10 places, you may get 5 appointments that day, but then you're going to have some other days where you do your 10, you try to get however many appointments and you don't get any. And so, but it's an average game. So with that analysis, that's
how the roadmap is always the
exactly.
same.
Well, we're box checkers.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I look at something that I have to do, and maybe it's not a lack of motivation, it's just an overwhelming anxiety of how many boxes need to be checked. And it isn't until I make a conscious decision to be like, listen, I don't have all the time in the world. I can't solve all the world's problems, let alone what my detached garage looks like with all of my toys and different things of interest that I have and all this. And I've done like some major rearranging in there, which has brought a lot of stuff off of the shelves. Now I need to figure out what I need to do with them, But again, that's a huge task in and of itself. And then there are other little menial things that I need to do. But again, that just adds to the list. So when I sit back and I either go out to the garage or I think about doing what I need to do out there, I mean, even in here, it's overwhelming sometimes. So you're right, that whole paralysis by analysis, I'm very, very, very guilty of that. Because I'm a very analytical person. I want to look at what I need to do to get things done. And again, when the volume of work becomes too much, it's just easier just to throw in the towel and not do anything at all. So what I try to do is, again, pick something small and tell myself it's okay that I just knocked this out. It's okay just getting this box done. But like I mentioned before we decided to start recording this stuff, I need to make sure that not all of the small things are things I want to do. So like what I mean by that is all of these things are things that eventually need to be done. Okay. But after I don't know how many years, I finally have a quad. And, it took some cool bartering and trading. I'm very happy with what I ended up with. And
I
so,
am too.
I think it'll be cool for, the kids and, us to get out and go and, definitely looking for another one. But all about bartering and trading. If everybody's out there has like a 400, 450 something, let me know what you want to barter and trade for. I'm all for it. Got a ton of stuff. But anyways, so that's my new thing. So the last couple days of things that I've knocked out are things for that. But it's nothing really like, hey, all your remote control stuff that's in this tote that is right by the tote that is, or right by your cabinet that has now become your cabinet for your RC stuff that was on your old workbench, that's supposed to go in here. So I'm looking at this tote and I'm like, there's so much more stuff than RC stuff in there. Then that means I need to make a decision on where that stuff goes. Instead of just being like, hey, if it's not RC, set it aside. And that will go another. But no, I'm looking at the tote of all of these tools and pieces and parts for all of these different RCs that I have. And then I'm also thinking, okay, well, how am I going to categorize this in this thing? Instead of just get it to where it needs to be and then chip away at it once it's in there, instead of having it be where I don't know where my motors are. I don't know where my servos are for like if one of my, a lot of trucks, not a lot, but quite a few of my RCs are down. I've got the parts. I just don't know where they're at since all this stuff has been moved. I have a hard time asking for help too, because I don't know how many times on some of these bigger jobs where you and our brother Dan, love you, brother Dan, you guys have offered to come and help. The reason why I don't ask for the help is because I don't even know where I want and what I want to be done. Like when we moved everything from all of the stuff that's in the detached that used to be out here, that was a lot of me just letting go and letting you guys move stuff so that we could just get the volume over, instead of being like, hey, no, I want to go through that. Hey, I want to do this with that. Instead of that work being done here before we moved it, I was okay with just, let's just get it out of here and get it over there. Whereas I really wanted to go through the things, see what needed it, I don't need anymore. So it's still work that I need to have done, but I was trying to be cognizant of your guys' time, because you guys have families and all this stuff too, and I didn't want you being stuck here with me going through my ish,
dude. And I totally get that. Like I know I would probably feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
But it's funny because just like we always say, you dread it before you go, like the gym, right? You never really want to. I mean, I guess, when you're really, really committed, I think there's been some times where I've really, really enjoyed so much. But even then, like when I enjoy the gym, there's still days I just don't want to go.
Yeah.
But you're always happy when you're done with it. You're always happy having gone and done the hard work, right? So I feel like it's very similar in these situations, because like, even if I don't want to do what you asked me to do, I'm not coming to do what you asked me to do. I'm just coming to spend time with you.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's what I cherish. And I think maybe that's what you're forgetting here, because
it totally is.
It's, it's one of those things. I know that I can quickly spiral down, mental thought patterns, and just the anxiety, just goes through the roof, and I just get paralyzed from all the frustration about stuff. And it's like, when I really look at it again in hindsight, it's never as bad as I make it out to be.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it crashes and burns, I'm always happier having done the hard thing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always happier having challenged myself to the point of like, damn it, I didn't want to do that. But look, I did. And, maybe not something phenomenal came out of it or, monumental, but, you did something hard. And especially like for like right now with my kid, I'm trying to do as many hard things that I don't want to do as possible. Cause I'm trying to model for my son, like, cause he doesn't want to listen to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I might as well be Miss Wormwood from the Peanuts, just wah, 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 wah. Check out Charlie Brown, man. It's always been a great cartoon. But yeah, like, I don't know, especially right now, I just feel like I have to model and choose to do the hard stuff. So maybe I'm just in a position or in a time or a phase of my life that I'm just more cognizant of it and aware of it and able to combat, the negative thoughts. But I just... I don't know, man. I feel like, especially the last few times you've expressed, honestly, trepidation about, doing some of this stuff when we've had things planned. And I've usually kind of let things slide. Like, there was one day where you weren't feeling good. And I was like, oh, dude, no worries. We'll come over another day. And then I got to be honest, even today, I knew we had this scheduled and you didn't message me on Teams this morning. You didn't message me, throughout the day. And so kind of midday, I reached out to you. It was just like, yo, man, trying to be extra positive. Cause I was like, just in case he's struggling mentally. Cause I know you've said, recently that you've been kind of having these ebbs and flows. So it's already existing in my mind that you're possibly considering not wanting to bail, but that you're already struggling finding good, positive things about what I know you love. Cause I know you enjoy doing this.
Oh yeah.
And I hope it doesn't ever turn into work for us. I hope we continue to love, enjoy doing this, but I don't know, man. I'm just kind of verbally processing out loud and kind of my thoughts and stuff. So I don't even know if any of this is making sense, but
no, it does. No, I see where you're coming from. You said something that my mind sort of stuck on, about Kainoa. You're trying to model these things to try to help him out. One, how is that going? Two, if dad would have done that for you, would you have seen it and would you have accepted it? Or would it be, again, one of those seeds that were planted and maybe you didn't see the fruit from that seed until years down the road that you were able to look out, oh, that's what dad was doing. Is that what you're expecting? Or are you expecting hopefully a more quicker turnaround with him on whatever it is you're trying to address by showing him that, hey, you can do the hard work too?
So my knee-jerk reaction to your first question, I started thinking about, well, my son's probably going to watch this one of these days. So then I started thinking, okay, my God. But I'm just going to be 100% honest. Terrible. It's going terrible. Because I think I'm having more realizations about the bad habits that really piss me off about my son, that I struggle with watching him do. And then I look at it and I look in the mirror and then I realize that's something I hate about myself that I do. Yeah. Those are things that I do sometimes. I talk over the top of people sometimes. Yeah. I will take over a conversation sometimes. Yeah. I will be loud and boisterous at not necessarily the most appropriate time. Now, I'm much better because I'm self-aware, have self-confidence, and have self-control. Kainoa's still working those things out. So his struggles a lot of times are more of a realization of where I am not doing good of being a model of some of these things. Now, I know that is very, very kind of negative, probably a lot more negative than you would like me to be about myself. But I only have one of each. I have a daughter and I have a son, right? My daughter's my oldest, and so she grew up and became a teenager, and she is very different than raising my son. And then my son is his own character and person and personality, and he's now entering into a phase of life that I'm still adjusting to. I just recently, I think within this last year, stopped looking at him as a child. I feel like my son accepts me for my flaws and he has a very empathetic heart. That is the one. I am blessed to have a son that has a heart that truly cares about people. As much as I focus on his personal struggle with selfishness, I have to give him credit that he really can and does have a big heart.
Oh, he does, man.
So I am blessed with that. That being said, he's becoming a young man, and he's trying to figure out all of his emotions and stuff. And so I remember being that young and that awkward. And so to go into kind of your next question of, is it something that if Dad would have done for me, would I have been aware of it and cognizant to be able to have received it? Probably not. I think it is, like you said, more of a seed that I'm planting. I'm trying to model because that's what I want him to focus on, is his relationship with other people. That's where being a teenager becomes a little more awkward, is because it becomes less about your parents carrying and fostering your relationships, and it's about you starting to carry and build and foster relationships, I feel like. Because as a kid, your parents set up your play dates, your parents schedule your birthdays, your parents get you to football practice, your parents take you to school, right? Your parents take you to your band, recitals and stuff like that. When you start to become a teenager and you're in high school, you're starting to do more and more of those things on your own. Now, some parents like to keep the tether a little bit tight and probably still want to do several of those things, but I think this is the time where they're supposed to be going out and starting to foster, build, and create relationships with other people. And so I think it's very important for him to see me interact with other people and speak to them in certain ways. So I try to be very careful about how I speak to other people around him. I'm just trying to be the good things that I hear people say that I am. I try to just perpetuate that for my son in actions that he can model and words that aren't directed at him, but are for him to hear. Does that make sense?
Yep. No, it does. So please don't take this question wrong or so you mentioned what other people think about you and say about you, and you were trying to model those things. Is that hard? Or are some of those traits that people say about you, are they becoming your truth? Because I think that's very, very, very important. Reason being is your kids are smart. And I'm not saying that you're being fake or anything like that, because I think you see value in the way that you are trying to be. But unless there's some self-belief behind it that, you really are that dude, that maybe the message isn't given fully or received fully. Because I'm not saying that you're, kind of out there, oh, my dad's full of shit. He's really not like that or anything like that. But I think if he sees you do something that you are confident about, even though it may be outside the norm for you, I think it has a lot more value. So what's your thought, I guess, on that?
I could see where maybe how I worded that possibly came across as in I focus a lot on what people say about me. I think I was just more saying that the person that I have come to believe that I am
Good.
has been formed, I think, a lot by a realization that I only see one side of the mirror.
Yep.
And the other side of the mirror sees things about me, and yes, they could possibly be falsehoods as well. So there has to be some kind of level of discernment. You have to have self-worth and understanding so that you can hear things from other people and know, because sometimes there's going to be ulterior motives from those people just saying those things, taking your kindness as weakness, and trying to manipulate you to do something for them by just stroking your ego. So I've learned a lot about that too, about falsehoods and believing, things that people maybe say that aren't necessarily true. But I think I've been blessed enough with people that have spoken good things. Usually are people, the ones that I listen to are the ones that have also been a little bit more critical with me. Maybe have been very real as far as maybe something that I've I don't do well, or that I struggle with, or something they feel could hinder me from succeeding in the future. And so there's a weight of I try to make as far as who I listen to.
Well, yeah, and like we said last time, give yourself grace because your decision was based on the information you had at the time to operate from. Now, whether or not you had other nuggets and you didn't go to your Rolodex and mental Rolodex and pick that out, give yourself grace. But how is it different with Kuleana?
I mean, part of it is she's a girl.
Yeah.
I look at my children differently because of their gender.
Yeah.
Because the world is going to treat her different than it is him. Just as much the world is going to treat him different, because he's a boy.
Yeah.
Or a man. So, you have to parent them differently. Because my daughter, I am trying to model for her the type of man I believe she deserves to have as her provider and protector for the rest of her life.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe she deserves that. Because I'm not going to be around forever. And by God, there better be somebody that's going to take care of her when I'm gone.
Yeah.
Because I love her that much. My son is a different person. He is going to be a man. So I have to raise him. I believe it's my duty to raise him to be the proper type of a person that if he chooses to have a spouse, that he knows what it means to take care of, to foster, and to love someone, and commit your life to someone.
Yeah.
So for my daughter, I have definitely put off, I don't think by choice, it has just happened, but I've put off the sense that she's the favorite, because I just treat my son a little bit differently, maybe a little bit harder. Truths are a little bit harder. The message is the same, but the delivery is a little different. And with Kuleana, I just feel like, I don't know, she's just been really receptive to guidance right now, because I think she's in a period of life, when she was a little girl, daddy was the favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a little girl, in her mind as a little child, daddy's the protector. He can protect me a little bit better than mom. He should be my favorite. So I'll be in good graces with daddy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now that she's becoming a young woman, she's 16, just got her license, she doesn't need a protector like she used to when she was younger.
Is that her saying that,
no,
or is that?
I think this is biology, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is when girls start to become young women, they need to know what that transition feels like with their monthly cycles, hormones, the feelings of seeing the opposite sex in different ways. All these emotions and feelings. Daddy can't teach her how to do that. Daddy can't give her context on what that feels like. Daddy can't teach her. I mean, he can if he needs to, if mom's not present, but daddy doesn't want to have to teach her how to use a tampon and or a pad.
Yeah.
But damn it, daddy would if he had to, right?
Yeah.
I know I salute fathers out there that are doing it all on their own. So I have accepted my role in her teenage years as I'm not the favorite anymore, because her relationship with her mother is greater and grander than I could have imagined, and generally feels like she's blessed to have the daughter that she has. So parenting for her is just a little different because I'm not guiding her right now. I'm still the protector. Literally, she calls me when it's dark outside because it's probably about 50 feet from where she parks to our front door. There's trees all over. There's terrible lighting in our neighborhood. Our front porch light does the best it can, but it doesn't reach over there. So where she parks, she has a little jaunt. So she calls whenever it's late at night and she's coming home, and daddy goes out to the end of the driveway and I stand out there.
Yeah.
When she pulls in, and I'm just looking up and down the street, making sure she knows that daddy's looking out for her. And I will proudly do that every single freaking day. Even if it is for her to walk right into the house, ignore me for the rest of the night, and go over to her mom and spill her guts about everything that she wants to spill her guts about. So
I think that's sort of why I said, it's We can't. I can't as a father, because I think you're exactly right. The relationship that my kid's mom have with our kids is totally different than the relationship I have. And so I'm okay, sort of sucks,
It
but
does.
I'm okay, because I do feel like, you know what, I have sort of put myself in that place. I mean, my mantra used to be, I don't care if my kids hate me. They're going to eventually understand why all this, I did what I did, or how I did what I did, you know? And, yeah, that's just the wrong way. Cause I feel like, well, now you're reaping that reward. They'll come to you when the world is burning, but okay, cool. I'll come save you. You know, Keikilani, Dad, hey, what's going on? What's up, babe? And it sucks too, because when my kids call me, it's one of those things, like if I'm in the middle of something, you know how we are. When we're in the middle of something, we're focused on that.
Yeah.
We get a call, it may not even register really what's going on, but it's like, okay, why are my kids calling me? They usually don't call me. They'll shoot me a text or something like that. So it's like, okay. But then I pick up the phone and it's just like, hey, Dad, how's it going? Good. What's up? Well, no, I was just calling just to see how you're. Oh, yeah, I'm good. But what's
You got to
up?
kind of mentally shift.
I feel like I'm doing 20 questions. I'm like, girl, what the hell you need? You don't ever call me. Thank you for the call. Just whatever. But I'm like, girl, what happened? Well, I got a flat tire. Why don't you just let me know? Hey, Dad, can you come save me? I got a flat tire. I'm stuck over here. Girl, I'm on my way. Don't worry about it. Are you safe? Are you on the side of the road? And so I'm okay being relegated to that as well. But it is. It's a little different, but I think.
So do you think that they don't feel comfortable just outright asking you? Like in that specific situation, is it maybe just a personality of the specific child, or is it just?
I think it's sort of 50-50. I think as far as, I've made my bed, I got to sleep in it, and again, I'm trying to rebuild and mend those relationships as best I can.
Is it possible that we have set this up in their mind? Because forever, since we've grown up, I remember super duper early, you go and say hi to all your aunties and uncles and grandpas and grandmas, right? You go and make sure they know that you see them. So that's been part of our growing up.
Yeah.
I know we have shown that to our kids.
They practice that. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if the phone call is an extension of that. Is it that they feel that by just calling and getting to the point, Dad, can you come save me? I got a flat tire. That is just the same as kicking in the door, waving hi to Nana, and then going up and dishing up a plate.
I don't know. I think I can see where you're coming from with that analogy, but I'd have to do some serious rumination on that to see if I agree with it in that context.
Okay.
I think it has to do a lot with, it's just easier to text. Yes, we can hold conversations and stuff. Like I said, when we have family events, I used to be in the mix of everything. I don't like that anymore. I will lay back and just sort of back against the wall. So I feel like I'm becoming dad.
Yeah.
Back against the wall and just looking at everything, making sure everything's okay. And then if I approach someone or someone approaches me, then I know they have my undivided attention, and they know they have my undivided attention, just like I'm hoping they give me their undivided attention, and we can just share in that moment. Okay. So I have those with my kids. I think it boils down to fear. Like, oh my God, what's Dad doing? I know he's busy. But at the same time, it's like, if you're stuck, I'm going to say don't waste time, but it's like, I could see too where she's coming from. She's trying to ease into the, hey, Dad, I need help.
Yeah.
Is
it a pride thing for her?
I don't know if it's a pride thing for her. I think it's maybe because we don't talk as often or all the time. Like, I don't see her all the time, but we'll just keep in touch, so this is a definitive, I'm going to be calling my dad. And now I'm forced to say, I could be totally, totally wrong, and Keikilani, looking very forward to having a conversation with you one of these times, having you on the podcast. But yeah, I think I don't know. I think it comes from a fear, but at the same time, I think it could be her being totally, my dad's been telling me to get new tires, and my tire's flat now. Damn it. And I just bought that new.
I don't want to hear that I told you so.
Yeah. In the back seat, there's a bunch of bags of some new clothes and stuff that I got, and here I am. Dad needs to come help me with a flat tire that he's told me I need to get new tires for. Dad. It could be that. It could be a multitude of different things.
Yeah.
And again, now that I'm thinking about it, I do have a little bit more of happy thought behind it. Besides, I was an dad, so this is what I get as hey, Dad, how you doing? Da-da-da-da-da. Well, listen, can you come help me do that? Jesus, dude. That's why I'm like, hey, if you need me, just let me know. Hey, Dad, can you come help me? Yeah, what you need? Well, I need help with this. All right, are you available now? Yes? Okay, cool. I'll be on my way.
Probably the call was more out of the respect because she at least felt like, okay, a text is probably not appropriate in this moment.
Well, I probably wouldn't have got it. I probably wouldn't have seen it right away. Because I don't have, on my phone.
Well, did you let her know that? Like, hey, next time something happens like this, just text me.
No. I told her next time, I'm like, babe, don't beat around the bush. Babe, if you're stuck, just call me and say, hey, Dad, I need you. And that will immediately turn, whatever attention I had on whatever little thing, no matter how important that thing may have been, I will crack the earth in half to get to my damn kids.
Yeah.
I've always said that. I've always said that to my nieces and nephew, too. They ever need me, I will get to you. But for me to be in that state, I need to know that you need me.
Yeah.
Not just a little cursory, hey, what's going on? What you doing? What you up to? Well, listen, I need the... Then I'm just like, you done wasted my time. I could have been sitting here getting this stuff ready.
There's a little thing called pertinent information.
Exactly.
Get to the point. Just facts. Let's go.
I did. I when I got there, I was still in that sort of mindset was elsewhere. Because I think I was working on something on Icebox on my Suburban. And so I had to stop what I was doing, pack up a bunch of stuff, my jack. Actually, I had to take the Suburban. So yeah, I threw everything in the back of the jack. Need to make sure I had my tools, my compressor, so I could fill it up or fix it, my tire patches and stuff. And I get there and they were on a 2-lane road, parked on the shoulder, and there were cars coming by. So I had to jack a third of the way into the lane so I could lift her Lexus so I could get to the driver's side tire and do what I needed to do. So that was a little bit. And it's just, I know that I had that zero affect. I just need to get this shit done. Look, that is not the most approachable.
Yeah.
Even though my daughter knows I love her more than anything in this world, she stayed away. Usually she's like, hey, Dad, how can I help? But she sort of just laid back in the cut and let me do my thing. And it wasn't until after I got everything done, got it patched, got it filled back up, everything was fine. Like, hey, you're going to be fine. It's cool. Done. Don't worry about it. That I went to her and I Honied with her. And I was like, when we separated, I was like, listen, I'm sorry for how I've been while I'm here. My mind was elsewhere. And when you called, it was just sort of like a chit-chat call. So my mind was still on the topic and the thing of what I was trying to do. I didn't have the chance to break away my concentration from that yet. Just picked up the phone and you're there and I'm just sort of half listening, half answering you. But if you need me, call me and be like, Dad, I need you. Dad, I need you to come help me with this. That is an immediate switch that will flip, that will make me forget about whatever else I was doing and then focus solely on what you need. And I will come, but I need to know first. Yeah. I was like, you ever want to have a conversation? Sure, call. We'll chit chat bullshit all the time. But if you need me, let me know you need me and I'll be there.
So, could you go into a little description, because you used a term, and I want us to continue to do this, as we are using more Hawaiian language and doing things. Could you explain to the people, our listeners at home, what a Honi is? Because you shared a Honi with Keikilani, and I want them to be able to have context.
So you will see a lot of island cultures do that. It's where you touch your forehead and your nose together with the other person. It's not a kiss of the lips. You touch your nose and your forehead together, and you both breathe in at the same time. And what you're doing is you're sharing the breath of life. You're sharing Ha, which is the breath of life. And so it is something that we didn't really do a lot. It wasn't until I think Dad came back, he started doing that. I believe one of the trips he came back from visiting Grandpa when Grandpa was, in the last few years of his life, and Dad would start honing. And I was like, oh, cool.
I remember him doing it at his retirement party quite a bit.
Yeah.
With people.
Yeah. And the thing is, people didn't understand the context behind it.
Which again was still Dad. He didn't care.
Yeah.
Like he was going to share this moment with people. And I remember hearing some of the guys, some of these rough and gruff city lacy guys, street workers, pavers and stuff like that, and sewer workers, like he'd come up to do this Honi, and like because it's supposed to be a beautiful thing, with the Polynesian cultures, a lot of what we do is very, very intentional, and it has deep meaning. Our songs, our language, our dancing, like just the way we lived had so much meaning. So a Honi shared with someone was supposed to be a beautiful, poetic thing. But if you don't know what a guy is doing when he's coming in like that, it looks like he's coming in for possibly an open mouth kiss, because sometimes the lips are open because, again, you're supposed to breathe in together, sharing that one breath. And so sometimes the lips are open and it comes in like, and I could totally see how if a guy's coming in, especially, a lot of times what you do is you would grab each other's, either, the back of each other's neck or head, but you slowly pull each other's forehead together and you just share a breath. A lot of times your eyes are closed. But Dad would do this sometimes to guys and they would be like, what's happening? But because they knew who Dad was, they knew they would allow him to do whatever. Yeah. They probably would have allowed him to kiss them. But I think most of those guys were like, oh gosh, what is he doing? But then when they figured it out, Dad would usually explain it to them if they had that look on their face too. But I noticed it most in his retirement party, which was around that time frame after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's something that, I've shared with some of the kids. I think all the kids I've done that with. And I really haven't gone into what it is yet, but I've shared that with them. But, with Keikilani, we've shared that a lot. Shared that with the boys too. But yeah, it's just something, it's a very special, it's very vulnerable. Because like you said, you if you don't know what's coming, you're like, oh my gosh. But even doing it is it's a very vulnerable act.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like going in for a hug and the other person is not a hugger kind of a thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's that like, is this going to get awkward? Oh, I look like I'm just stretching. I wasn't wanting for a hug. Yeah. So I'm glad you said that, because I do feel very vulnerable when I go in to do those. But I think, again, if people know the context of it, it is a very beautiful thing.
Oh, love it. I love those. I love those moments, those brief moments you get to share with someone, especially if they're not family and someone who understands what it is too. It's pretty cool.
Quick shout out to near and dear friend of ours, Jamie. Appreciate you, brother. I know he was an amazing advocate for Dad in his years with the city of Lacey, but I know one of the things that Dad blessed him with was that. And Jamie said that he, to this day, will Honi with his kids.
Yep.
And so here's this beautiful Polynesian tradition that our dad taught, a local, Washingtonian. And here he, extends his aloha, his own, because technically he would be haole. He's a foreigner, to Hawaii, but in his own aloha, he, shares his love with his kids through that same kind of a thing. I think that's so beautiful. So anyways, love you, bro. Love you, Jamie. Always appreciated you throughout the years, man, and take care of Dad and being there for him. So,
well, let's just talk about him for a little bit. So the cool thing about Jamie is Jamie got to know Dad because you guys knew each other in high school too. I mean, you guys weren't like really good friends, but I mean, he knew of Dad.
Yeah.
And so I can't remember if we really alluded to this last. No, we didn't, because we weren't really talking about kids. But I feel like you either knew Dad pre-Iraq or you knew him post-Iraq. And Jamie knew him both times.
Mm-hmm.
Knew him in both facets. So when Jamie went to work for the city of Lacey, here was this young man who pretty much same age as Noah, maybe a year older.
No, he's same age.
Same age. Okay, so same age as Noah. So same age as his baby boy is now telling him what to do. But even though that put sort of a craw in Dad's, jaw about this young kid telling him that, I don't think he would have been that way pre-Iraq. I think that came after. But even with that, and how sometimes Dad would say some things that would sort of rub people the wrong way, Jamie still knew who he really was.
Yeah.
And that wasn't like him. But yet, like you said, he was still Dad's biggest advocate, making sure that he got all of the time that he needed to make sure that his treatments were done right. Even when he came to the end and they found out that his I can't remember what that's called, your term of employment wasn't quite 30 years, that he needed to do like an extra month or something of like that. They found something really simple for him to do.
Yeah. Because by then he was ravaged by his cancer treatments, and he was barely able to stay awake, for a 6-hour day, let alone an 8-hour day. I think, he was.
But even with that, he still worked circles around. When he was able to, he worked circle around everybody else that was doing the same job he was.
He was just sleeping during his lunch hours instead of
eating.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, I can't say enough about Jamie, man. Like, it was interesting. We weren't super duper close in high school. I know our senior year we were close. I think the closest, and then a little bit even after high school. But then, I knew him over the years, just little interactions going with Dad to city events and stuff occasionally, and bumping into him, and of course social media. It started a little bit into the later years, but I've always appreciated, especially after Iraq.
Yeah,
I think it's probably the most interaction. Post 2006.
Sixes, yeah.
I started to have more and more interactions with Jamie, I would say. It's still sporadic, but not a ton, but I think every time it was just such a blessing, and I could feel the genuineness that he had for love and care for not just Dad, but for our family in general. Like, he loved Mom, and he knew that one of the best ways to bless Mom would be to advocate for Dad and be there for him. And I think his way of sharing his love and aloha for me, you, and Dwayna was best thing I could do to bless them is to love their mom and be an advocate for their dad. So to me, man, I've just always just appreciated him and just who he is and his character. And I know he's, had challenges, has had his own challenges in his own family. And he just continues to prove day in and day out, man, what a good dude he is. So, love and aloha to you, Jamie.
Yeah, appreciate that, Jamie. Appreciate you, man. We look at our situation and the things that we're going through, or that we're going through, as I still feel like a young man, so I'm gonna say young man. I feel like we're not the only ones. We're not the only ones going through these little, I don't want to say identity crisis, but just trying to figure out who we are, where we're at in these different stages of life that we're in now. And I think we're concentrating on it more now because, or I know that I am, is because I know that time is very finite. It's not infinite. As much as I'd like to think it was when I was younger, it is not. It is very, very, very finite. So I am very cautious in the actions and the things that I say and do now, because I don't have a lot of time. I don't feel like I have a lot of time to make up for mistakes that I may have, that I really need to be cognizant of what I say, how I move, what I do, who I interact with, who I allow in, and just choosing and being very, very cautious in how I move and say things.
I think you being aware in those kinds of ways is a good thing. It's a healthy thing. So,
oh no, I do. Again, it's just one of those things. I wish I would have done it sooner. But I didn't have the information then to know, or gone through what I had gone through to get to the point to where I'm at now. It's just, it is something that I do think about. Like, I wish, I think that's why I like this platform, is to try to show the younger people that, hey, this is what you got coming down the road. It's not all friggin', you become an adult. It's not easy. And I know a lot of the kids that I had influence over who are now in their early 20s, either going to college or working, they're starting to see that, but it doesn't get easier. So you really need to work on yourself and make sure that you're okay. And
So what does that look like? Maybe there's, obviously we didn't like pre-think out this specific topic, but maybe we could just verbally process this out. Cause I know a lot of times when we have our conversations, when we're just without a camera, without mics, without, headsets, we're just talking, we're just rapping, and man, we will come up with some good stuff. So maybe we can just try to focus on it now and do something similar. So what is something you wish you could tell your younger self as possibly a gift for maybe some young people out there? And maybe even just for older people, even our generation, think of something that, you would tell your younger self, what's something you could be, sitting at home right now, possibly hearing this, and what's something that you wish you could have told your younger self, and how do you think things would be different if you had that context? And maybe think, would the next generation be even open to hearing whatever that is? Like, so
no, what I'm going to say is no, because it's so contradictory to what kids today are influenced. I would tell myself, you don't know everything. The little bit that you do know, you're probably wrong about it. Be humble and just listen. Listen, not waiting for someone to take a breath so that you can speak on what they said 5 minutes ago, but actually sit there and be present in the conversation, taking everything they say so that you can address as much of their statement or question as possible, instead of you just what they touched on at the beginning, because that's where you stopped listening. You were formulating your answer, and then you missed all of these other things that were of more importance than what you heard at the beginning. And I think that is something very hard. Even now, I have a hard time doing that. I have a hard time listening to everything that is said, whether it's in meetings at work, whether it's just in little, interactions with friends and family, because even then, you want to conversate. Conversation is the giving and the receiving of information. Mm-hmm. Whereas a lot of people today, they just want to give you information. They don't want to hear you have to say. It's just, listen, take this as what I said as gospel truth. No. So yeah, I would try to tell myself, be humble, listen, really listen. I mean, because that's what the basis of this podcast is all about, is that, it's based off of us wishing we took the opportunities to actually listen to our kapunas, actually listen to what they had to say. Whether or not I'm remembering something that I sort of just was listening to Grandpa tell me and I just sort of flittered away in my own mind, but really just sitting down and listening to him and having that time, so that's what I would tell other kids. But again, like I said, if I go to try to tell Kainoa that now, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. And I don't know how I could pose that in a way outside of just sort of, it's black and white. This isn't indigenous sort of poetic speaking. This is, you need to be this way, because it makes you, I feel it has made me understand people a little bit more. And even though I might not agree with everything they say, cool, we can agree to disagree. Whereas before, and what I'm seeing now in society, to where if you disagree with someone, you're the devil. Or you should be canceled or banished away. It's like, no. That's what our dad and our grandparents and uncles fought for in the armed forces, so that we could have a differing opinion. And it's okay for us to agree to disagree. That is totally all right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes this country one of the greatest countries in the world, if not the greatest. Because we're not dictated to think, but now you want to dictate to me how I feel and how I think because of this, or that. No.
Yeah.
No. But I'll listen to you. I will listen. I may not agree with it, but that's okay too. Mm-hmm. That's okay. I can tell you right now, people who are like you got your ass kicked. And you would learn to know what you say has repercussions.
Yeah. What kids have lost is the ability to be okay with silence. Because listening requires for you to shut up. Yeah. It requires for you to not flap your gums. But the way that social media, I think, has wired some of these kids' brains is you have to say something.
The people who talk get the attention.
You have to say something, because if you don't say something, you don't get likes. You don't get follows. You don't get shares. You don't get comments. You don't get emojis. Mm-hmm. You have to say something. Yeah. You are forced to participate. And so much so, and this whole like, need my followers, need my likes, need my clicks, need my views, whatever. There's this need to be heard so bad. The similar thing that we struggled with, needing to feel liked and feeling like we're part of something, feeling we belong. And I feel like social media has kind of just wired our kids' minds to feeling that dopamine hit of when I say something and I get a reaction, good, bad, or indifferent. Mm-hmm. It's still a good thing because they're getting their attention. And so I feel like some of it, the next generation's issue with listening is something that I think they're going to have to try to figure out. For me, I don't know what I would really tell my younger self.
I'll be honest, it was hard for me to come up with that, man.
That was a phenomenal answer.
But it was hard. Because when you first asked, I'm like, I don't know. Because I went immediately to the, you're not a gangster. Pull your pants up. You do not wear 4X. Put on something that fucking fits. That type of stuff.
It's funny because the questions that we were going to ask that we've pivoted away from, talks about our teenage years. So I feel like a lot of what I'm going to say will probably be talked about in those questions.
Do you want to hold off on? Because I have something that I want to pivot off of one of the comments you were just talking about.
Let's go for it. Let's pivot, man. Today's all about pivot.
Pivot.
If you know, you know.
What's up? Shelby, that's for you. She's a huge fan of where that comes from. But anyways, so dopamine hits for social media and this type of stuff.
Dopamine hits.
So what has been, since we launched our first episode, when you look at the view count, I mean, I'm so happy that we are this close to 200 views. And I was quantifying. I was like, hey, so about 2 hours ago, it was 170 something, and now it's this. Okay, so that means a new person is watching it every hour. So,
dude, you are way overthinking this thing, bro.
No, but that's why I'm like, okay, how do I get out of that? Because this is just supposed to be us having fun, and I'm not trying to. It is a little bit of a dopamine hit. It is a little bit of a dopamine hit when I see that, someone that we know has something to say about it. And I'm trying to keep it as healthy as possible, but I'm like, how do I not make this just some over agonizing thing that I am like, oh my God, if we don't get a like, if we only get like 200 views, oh my God, what the fuck? Where's that coming from?
I just got to be pride, man.
Probably
not that I would say you're a prideful person. There's that part of me that like I'm a little bit more aware when I have a notification from Facebook that says, "Hey, somebody said something about possibly one of your posts." It's the first thing I do usually when I open my phone and I'm kind of looking for something to do. I will click on our Facebook page to see if somebody's commented or liked or shared or something. And I will say I do get a little bit of that dopamine hit, from seeing those. I get a little excitement.
Yeah.
I don't think I need that excitement to continue to be, to have this be desirable for us to want to do. I've been wanting to do this, and I'm just so excited that it's coming, like it's becoming something.
Yeah.
It went from a dream to manifestation of actually something happening. And I honestly, even I'll say right now, dude, I could see us doing this for a long time, man.
Yeah.
I'm having so much fun, and I hope we do this for a long time.
All right. So cool. Just keep that in the back of your mind as we go through these, because I think that's one of the biggest things is I don't want to be held hostage to likes and views.
Yes.
I that's not why we're putting this out there.
No.
I mean, I'll be honest. I want to share some of the stuff that Kimiko said. You know, I shared his messages with you, but it was so cool because he was able to, like when we talked about the name, you know, he started unpacking what his name is, because his name is Kimiko. You know, and so when we were talking about what that means, he was like, he had some epiphanies on things that he needs to work on again, just himself, just how he needs
So
to
the living your name part.
the living your name.
Got you.
You know, are you living your name?
Yeah.
And it was just really cool. And I was like, bro, that is why we put this stuff out. Now, whether or not it's you saying that because, you know, you're my son and you're my brother's nephew, and, you know, we're glad that you got that. No, if anybody would have come back and said something like that, I think would have been really pivotal.
Yep.
In showing us that, wow, okay, what we're doing it seems to be right.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, and I think similar, like, I hope people aren't just hearing this to be entertained, because again, that's not our intent.
Yeah.
Like, we hope there's some kind of entertainment value.
Yeah.
And we hope to elaborate on our production value and stuff and continue to grow and learn there and put out better and more content. So I was saying how I hope people hear this and they do some personal reflection on their own, because I think that's where the basis and the foundation of this really comes from. I hope some of these things will spark conversations in your homes, conversations in your families, conversations with your siblings, conversations with you and your parents or aunties and uncles, family members. Connect with people, even if they're not your blood relatives. You know, if there's a certain group of friends that you have, ask these questions about them, learn about them as kids, and, you know, maybe learn some of these things so that you understand even deeper why you're a friend with them or why you struggle with certain things about them. Maybe there's a backstory to why they are never on time for things. Maybe there's a reason why, you know, they don't like to do this certain activity with you, but they'll do everything else, you know? I don't know. I hope this becomes more than just you listening, and it becomes more of a tool to think about things that we believe are important in life. And ask yourself some of these good hard questions. So definitely. I think that's awesome that, you know, my nephew, your son, Kimiko, got something out of it, you know, already in episode 1. And to me, that's all the more worth it, man. That makes it worth all the effort and energy that we've put into this. Even if one family member got something, you know, powerful that helped them, that's awesome.
No,
it's all worth it.
Yeah. So I was just that whole dopamine thing, that's immediately where I went to, because I remember that feeling when I looked at it today. It was 172, then it was 175. I'm like, dude, are we going to maybe have 200 by the time we film this? Maybe. You know, it's like, why does that matter? Why am I putting value on that? But you're right. It is because I do have pride and I am passionate about the things that we are trying to share with other people. And like you said, this isn't for entertainment. I mean, yeah, some of it is, but it's really not. Dale Oquist, love you, Pastor Dale. His just him talking about sermons and his view on sermons, to where the sermon that I give you on Sunday, I was given it because I was told I need to teach this. But that story, there may be something in it that I didn't mean to cover, but it resonated with you. There's nothing wrong with that as well. So I love that, you know, we may come into these podcasts with a certain theme or something, but someone may grasp onto something that we share that maybe we didn't feel was really important in the grand context of the episode or whatever we're recording at the time, but it made sense for that person and they gleaned onto that, and that helped them become a little bit better of a person because of whatever we shared.
Yeah.
And I love that. Absolutely love that.
Well, and I think, kind of to continue to build on that, I think it's nice to maybe introduce another Hawaiian word, our Kuleana, because we feel like this is our calling. This is our responsibility, our privilege to do this. Your Kuleana would be probably in basic terms would be your calling, your purpose. Your Kuleana is really a gift and a responsibility that you have the privilege, because of your giftings, because of who you are, and because of the mana, the energy that you have been given to operate. Like, it is something that you feel called to, but it is really your mantle to hold. We feel like our calling is really, our purpose is to do this, to have these deep conversations, to capture these stories of people's lives and use that to glean knowledge and wisdom, and then perpetuate that, use that as a model to achieve or to journey towards Pono, or our own righteousness, right? Yeah. So I don't know if I said that clearly or if you think that articulates it, but anything else about Kuleana that you would maybe throw in? Or
well, I mean, we talked about it at length in I think it was one of our first little mini episodes where we were testing equipment and stuff. We talked about that, and one of the things I was really trying to hammer home, especially with your Kuleana, is your Kuleana a lot of times is not meant for you. The outcome of it is not meant for you.
Yeah.
So it is not something that you a lot of times may get a lot of kudos or
personal gratification.
Personal gratification from. You may get it because of the actions you chose to do by those seeing you do it. It's because though they see you doing for others. So I could be totally wrong about this, but just in talking at length to some of our relatives about their own Kuleanas and what they've gone through, a lot of times it's never meant for them. It's always to help perpetuate others. It's not about me, my, I. It's about everybody else. This is helping other people. And so that's one of the things I think that we've really tried to do is like, this is really to help other people. Yeah. Yes, we're having a good time. This is therapeutic for us. But again, if there are little nuggets of things that we can share with other people that, wow, I have that same thing happening. We're not saying that all the solutions or things that we come up with in this podcast are going to be right for everybody, but it may give them another lens to look at something through.
Yeah.
And I think what's hard about this Kuleana is that whole Western side of the gratification side. And I know I'm sort of going back to that, but for me, I'm stating this now, I do not want that to be something that is on my mind a lot, because I don't like it, because that's not what we're here for. We're here for, hopefully, just with the best intentions that, hey, if one person gets one thing out of one of our little episodes or little segments or whatever we post out there, I think that's great. Yeah, I really do. Because a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about, if you're a young person, you may not have context to a lot of what we're talking about, which is okay too, because that's just a seed that's planted. Maybe when you get older and you go through that, you'd be like, oh, hey, I remember those guys talked about that, and this is what they did, or this is how they got through it, or whatever it may be. So you maybe, again, may have some context on how to navigate that, to whereas when we were going through it, we didn't really have a lot of context on where we needed to go or how we're going to get through it. We just knew we were going to be able to get through it.
So I thought of something as you were kind of
rambling.
Well, no, as you were finishing your last thought, I went back to the question, about what you would tell your younger self. And I was just thinking again, as you were talking about, possibly people getting stuff out of this. And I think something that I feel like would be beneficial for younger people is to, something you had already kind of alluded to, but don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
And be aware of who you trust to ask for help. Because I know, unfortunately, people, that have chosen to have certain groups of people for their support group, and it has not been good because they have not been reliable, or even the things that they tried to do to help usually made the situations worse.
Yeah.
Or their energy, man, is just negative, and so they can tend to make bad situations worse. And it's like, those are not the people you want around you, you know?
Yeah.
So I would say one of the things I would encourage young people, if you're going to hear this, you know, you're going to have to work on being vulnerable, because to ask for help, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to say that you need help, or you're going to have to eat the words, I made a mistake. That's really hard. You know, pride is really, when you're young, you think you have all the answers. You think you're free because you did the darn thing, whether you graduated or not. You made it to 18, and you think
I'm an adult now.
Yeah, and the world has a lot out there that is ready and willing to manipulate your ignorance,
chew you up and spit you out.
Work on being vulnerable, and be willing to ask for help.
I think one of the coolest lessons I learned from Mom, just sort of tagging along with what you just said, is that I don't know if she ever used this with you, but I know she used this with me when she saw in high school how different my friend group was. Because, you know, just like you, I was friends with everybody. I was friends with nerds, people in band, athletes, gangsters, rockers, the goth group, you know, the drama kids. I didn't care. I thought that, you know, hey, as long as you don't wrong me, hey, we're good. You know, one of the other things Mom and Dad always taught me too is that if someone you're friends with wrongs another friend, that's not on you, or that doesn't have anything to do. You don't need to choose a side.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be mentioned because that didn't happen to you. When it happens to you, that's when you choose a side.
Yeah, that's not your burden to carry.
That's not your burden to carry, because you don't know the whole story. You just know your friend said this, your other friend said this. Somewhere in the middle is the truth. So if they got an issue, if your friend has an issue with you being friends with this other person, well, then maybe they need to kick rocks.
Yeah.
You know, so, but to get back to the main rule that Mom was telling me about, that is so damn true, and it's just gotten truer and truer and truer as I've gotten older, is that she's like, you may have a lot of friends now, and this is when I was in high school. She's like, you may have a lot of friends now, but you know a lot of people. A lot of people know you. She's like, you're going to learn that you don't have a lot of friends. And I'm like, what? She's like, you're going to have 3 friends in your life, 3 different types of friends. I'm like, okay. She's like, you're going to have, the first one is they come into your life, they're great, you think they're going to be there forever, and boom, they're gone. And it happens like that. I'm like, okay. Again, I didn't have context. I wasn't really listening and trying to apply what she was telling me at the time. And then she's like, the second group is, again, they're really great. They're going to be around you a long time. You think, oh, this is going to be a lifelong friend. We're going to grow old together. Just on the porch in a rocking chair, drinking a beer or something like that. But then again, later on down the road, whether life happens, circumstances changes, and you guys are no longer friends. She's like, you'll have a lot less of those. But she's like, the last ones are the most important. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? She's like, those are the ones who come into your life, and then they're there with you through a lot of your ups and downs. And she's like, those you will not be able to count on more than one hand. I'm like, whatever. It is so true.
Yeah.
I got, outside of you, I've only got 3 friends. I've got a lot of people who I'm really good acquaintances with. Their definition of friend is probably what they would put with me, which is great. Cool. Thank you. Because that's your definition. My definition is a little bit different, and I hold it a little bit closer to me.
Yeah.
And these 3 dudes, they fill that triplicate. I don't need anybody else to be in that group. I don't. This is enough. You know, not to saying that another I wouldn't invite in, or if someone came into my life that I felt was able to be that, great. But I'm not looking for it. I don't need it. These 3 guys are like family. They loved our parents. They love our parents. They love our family. And I know they do anything for us. Just the same like I would do anything for them. And we would do anything for them as well. So I think that's something that if you as a young person can learn sooner than later, but yet it's so contradictory to Western thinking, more is better. You know,
over quantity.
Yes, there you go. The quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And
at least in this realm, I agree.
But the thing is, though, I now as I'm saying this, and you bring up quality, it's like, well, do they have the context to really judge quality?
Well, I think again the overall arching lesson is the fact that you have the three friends. Just try to grasp that. Yeah. Remember all of your choices, regardless of whatever happens, whether you're in high school or you're just, into your young adult years now, just remember, regardless of what happens, even if you don't have a ton of friends in high school, you're still going to have those same three groups of friends.
Yeah.
You're going to have friends that are in your life that will just magically disappear.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have friends in your life that feel like they're going to be around forever, and life circumstances just happen and things just change and they fade away.
Yeah.
And then there are those few that are going to be there for you through thick and thin. You can be transparent with them. You can be authentic with them because they're authentic with you. They love you more than just you. Like you said, those three guys that you named, I know all three of them. And I know they not only, like, if you passed away, their relationships with our mom would continue.
Would carry on, yes.
They
exactly.
would check in with mom.
Yeah.
Probably would check in with us.
Yeah.
Those are your true friends. You want the ones that are going to show up when you are on your deathbed.
Yeah.
Or at least, when on your dying day. You want the ones that are going to show up for your family when you're long and gone. And I know that there's only a few guys that I could say would do that. And even then, there's some that I wished would be on that list, but I don't know if I could actually say that they would do those things.
And that's the other thing too is,
okay.
We have these, because I'm thinking of some other people who are in my life and I was like, I just don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking for them to say, oh, I would totally do that. No. It's not that. It's because there are things that have happened or maybe not happened. And I think that's what because I've experienced a lot of things with these three guys that I haven't with a lot of other friends, even friends I've been lifelong friends with.
Yeah.
I think the experiences that I've had with these guys molded things a little bit differently than other people. And again, they weren't all good situations, but they were situations that were tested. And now I can look back and be like, dang, I don't know many other people who would have done that. Let alone anybody.
Or even if it went bad, like you guys went through something bad together. And that only makes, relationships all the more stronger when you do those kinds of things. So I agree with you, man. I feel like there is a lot to be said for, having a small circle.
Yeah.
Not that you can't be open to going and being around other people. I think it is very good for us to be around other people.
Oh, definitely.
Even in uncomfortable situations. I know Dad didn't like, large groups. That was more because of PTSD, but I know it was good for him to fight against that and occasionally get himself into uncomfortable situations. Yeah, he might have to back into a corner. Yeah, only halfway through the event, he'd have to leave.
Yeah.
Or he'd go sleep in the car. But he still put himself through that to push himself, to not let the fear dictate who he was. That was the best he could do, in those situations. And sometimes the fear got the better of him. But
I my heart hurts about that when I think about those times, because especially, I don't even say closer to the end. It was like the last 5, maybe 10 years, Dad was very recluse-like.
Oh, big time.
And so I just remember Mom, when she would go to these events, these Islander events and stuff, everybody would always ask, hey, what's Gary? How's he doing? What's going on? And I'm just thinking in my mind, if Dad knew of that, would that have changed? Would it have changed his decision to not go?
I bet you it would have.
You think so?
Yeah.
I would like to think so.
I like to think so, only because of how much, and we've already alluded to this, how much Dad worshiped Mom. And if he knew, because the challenge with people asking that to mom is she had to relive the grief of telling people where he was in his treatment.
Yeah. Or
So
just
she had,
or glazing it over,
or-
not
or-
letting them know the battles
yeah.
that he's going through.
So she had to either fight formulating the proper way to not make herself emotional
Yeah.
and give too much information, or she had to spew her guts every time and had to
Relive
choke
it.
back, the pains of having to go through what she was going through. So I think mom was struggling through it regardless. And I think that would have fueled dad enough to say, I'm getting up. If he knew mom, and again, mom probably was fine. I'm probably making it out to be worse than it may have been.
Yeah.
But I bet you dad, if he knew that it hurt mom, or may even not even hurt her, to know that she would have struggled with it or possibly struggled with it, I bet you he would have pushed himself, even if it made him sick, because I feel like he loved mom that much. Now, granted, again, maybe I'm, fantasizing a little bit too much, but I feel like our dad, the true version of our dad, would have.
Yeah. I guess why I sort of brought that up is just thinking about and knowing, I'm thinking about these uncles like Uncle Ray, Uncle Phil, Uncle Les. When mom would be at these things and they would ask about him, I would hope that they would never think that, and I know they wouldn't, but it's just something that's just fucking the way my mind goes sometimes. So I hope they never think it's them, or it was the function, or there was something there that was he was choosing not to be around.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's not the case, because you
Yeah.
know some of what he's going through, but you don't know everything.
Yeah.
Yes, it was his treatment, but the PTSD. Yeah.
Well, and I think especially in the last years, because I think it was the last couple of years when he had the massive challenge of eating.
Yeah.
Dad's safe place was food. Man.
Yeah, I know.
And I mean, once that was messed with,
Yeah.
he was never the same. So dad, to fill people's, context, dad had multiple bouts of cancer, and he had to be filleted open for one of his surgeries. And to do that, they had to put certain organs to sleep because they didn't want them operating while they were doing this because of all the blood loss that would have happened. And so this is my understanding of it. And so when you do that and organs are asleep, they have to come back and wake up, right, to then start working properly. Well, sometimes, depending on what happens, complications, things don't heal right, certain organs don't wake up fully, or they don't come out of it fully, or they just don't start operating properly post surgery. Those are some of the complications that can happen. Unfortunately, dad, his stomach was one of the organs that was asleep and just didn't fully wake back up. So he had what was it? Gastroneuropathy?
Paresis or something like that.
Gastroparesis. That's right. So gastro meaning your stomach organs, and paresis meaning paralysis. So his stomach was paralyzed basically. So, his stomach needs to kind of undulate. It kind of has to flex in and out. It has to have muscles that do that. So it has to have blood flow. Well, if it's asleep, blood flow is not happening. So the muscles aren't flexing. So the motion of the stomach was not happening to be able to get the food into the intestine
and
routed to where it needs to go to get nutrients pulled and waste processed, blah, 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 blah. So from that point on, when dad had that surgery and started to have complications with his stomach, that's when his personality really started to get damaged, I think, the most, because he had now multiple years of PTSD, multiple bouts of cancer with chemo involved in both.
Chemo and radiation
in both. So very, very invasive stuff, very intrusive on his body, really wreaked havoc on him. And now to the point to where his safe place, his go-to comfort of, as my mom would put it, a garbage gut, dad was unable to have the foods he wanted.
Yeah.
And once that love of life was taken, he couldn't get him water because a lot of his incisions and, you know, some of the healing and stuff, it was not comfortable for him. And without the nutrients, his muscles were starting to atrophy. And he was barely able to, you know, keep himself upright and have much energy and stuff. And so it was just kind of this slow decline in Dad. I didn't even think about it till really now, like just how painful that must have been for him, mentally taxing, you know. And maybe this isn't a good way for my mind to go because I'm feeling emotions come up that are not going to be good.
Yeah, no, I think it's okay, man. Because again, we're still grieving, you know, and we're all at different points of it. You know, some things will rekindle those, and this conversation, unfortunately, like for me as well, has brought up some of that stuff. But it's not to minimize too, because you know, Dad, he was. It's like we're painting him like the last years of his life. He was
I know,
just,
yeah,
this
like
frail little old man just wasting away to nothing. No, no, not at all. I mean, I wish I could show you some of the stuff here that I physically had to move, and I'm like, okay, I know that before Dad passed away, those screw bins and those bolt bins, there was 2 of them. They have to be 1,000 pounds a piece because of how much material is in them. They used to be out here. They're actually right here's a stairway behind our little, you know, backdrop. There's a stairway right here. They used to be right underneath the stairs. After he had passed a couple months down the road and I was able to go step into the detached, I'm like, wait a second. What are those? Where did those get in here? The detached garage. So we're out in the barn, out on Mom and Dad's property. The detached garage is probably what, 50 yards?
Yeah, 30, 40 yards.
30, 40 yards away. Okay. And I don't know when, but I know that Mom and Dad moved into this house October 2019. Dad passed away March 2020. So he got to live in this house roughly about 5 months. Okay. Within that 5 months, again, Dad doesn't look like he used to. Okay. Very small, you know, frail, but still just a busy bee. Whenever he had energy, he was doing something because he loved this property. He loved applying all of these things that he did for work for the city of Lacey here. And so anyways, back to these bolt bins. It's like each drawer is anywhere between 50 to probably 125 pounds.
Okay.
And so I go and I'm just trying to move them in the detached garage from one spot to another.
Oh, I remember these things.
And I'm like, I try to get the hand truck, our big utility hand truck. I'm trying to get that underneath it. I'm like,
weren't they like card index drawers? They were like super dupe, like they're deep.
They look
like only like
no. They're wide drawers, but they come out like the full length. So they can hang with like 150 pounds worth of stuff in that drawer and it ain't gonna break. So, like I said, each of these weigh probably in total anywhere from 750 to 1,000 pounds. My immediate thought is, how the hell did Dad get them from here to the detached? So I immediately call Noah. I'm like, hey, bro, did you help Dad move his screw drawers? You know, the big bolt thing? He's like, no. Are you sure? You sure you didn't come and help him? No. I'm like, what the hell the fuck did you do this, Dad? Okay, call Dan. Hey, brother Dan. Hey, did you help Dad? Yeah. Did you help him? No. Did you help him move the bolt bins that were in the barn? Did you help him move it to the detached? No. Are you sure? You didn't come over and help? No. Dad, how the hell did you do this? And then I was like, okay, what do I got to do? I have to take each drawer out by itself. Even each one of those drawers, I'm like, how the hell did our dad move all friggin' 20 of these? And then the bins himself. But that's the great thing about our dad is we have more questions than answers than on a lot of things that he was capable of doing. And still just one of the hardest working men I've ever known. And so, yeah, don't don't ever think of our dad as weak.
Ridiculous strength, man. Like that. Like, thinking he was a superhero. For those of you who had a good relationship with your father, I'm appreciative to be one of the few that has a good relationship with their father. And I know that I do have some friends out there that have good, lasting relationships with their dads, but I know just as many, if not more, that have tumultuous, situations with their dad. It's funny because, like, there is a point to where you feel, even if you believed your dad was like superhuman,
Mm-hmm.
there is a point where you kind of realize, okay, he's not invincible. But there was something still about Dad, even though the one time, because there was only one time that I beat Dad in arm wrestling.
No, you were the only one too. Oh no, Kamiko beat him too.
Yeah, but Kamiko,
there's an asterisk by that one.
Yeah,
there's an asterisk.
No offense, Kamiko, but Papa was not in his prime.
No.
I beat him in my prime too, but but there was something about Dad that he always had the upper hand.
Oh, totally.
Like physically, and we didn't wrestle a ton, but like Dad was playing with us when he
totally.
would kind of wrestle.
His body awareness, like when he jumps, like when he would jump off a cliff, his awareness of where his body was at how he was able to do that when he would jump and do those twisting ones where he would land just perfect. I'm like, how do you do that? I know you weren't in gymnastics, Dad.
Yeah.
How did you do that? How do you know that? Because you're not jumping from the same 10 feet every time. You're jumping from something that's 12 feet, 20 feet, 8 feet. But he would always land just
but he knew
perfect and knew how to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember wrestling Dad out at the what are we going to call that? Daniel's Loop house.
Okay, yep.
In the backyard. And I just got my handed to me. Literally handed to me.
Yep.
I'm like, how? I am 100 pounds. And physically, I feel like I'm stronger, but nope.
I think Dad was mentally more tough than we give him a lot of credit for. Because I think, back to your original question, how did Dad move that thing?
Yeah.
He moved those, he probably moved them one at a time, and he just did it with grit.
Yeah.
He just knuckled up.
Maybe backed the truck all the way in.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
But Dad would have figured out a way, and it was probably haphazard. It was probably hazardous.
Not a way that we would have done it.
Not how we would have done it. Probably overworked it and overthought it. Probably was in some dangerous situations, and Mom probably wouldn't have approved. Yeah. But he would have just done it. He would have figured out a way. And I just know he did it with grit. He did it with his toughness, his mental toughness. That I think a lot of times that's what beat us. We physically could have taken our dad.
Oh, I think so.
But he beat us mentally. I'm thinking how many times he would use the callus in between when he would set up arm wrestling. He would drive, because his hands were so calloused. When he would come in, he would take this ridge right here that was calloused like sandpaper. And when he would lock up, right? So he would come in, he would dig and smash your freaking thumb. He would try to cut off circulation in your thumb just so that you were already mentally defeated before the ref was putting his hands up to say go. You were like, this is really uncomfortable. I don't think he's not allowed to do that, is he? Like, this kind of almost hurts. It's uncomfortable. And so like you were already mentally defeated. Like he just.
But then again, I'm like, maybe it's just me not giving Dad enough credit. But do you think he was really like, I'm going to get this little bastard right now. He thinks he's going to do this. Watch. I don't see his dad being that way, but you know what? Maybe it was not with that,
Thinking of, okay, so I'm trying to think of the person that we know.
Okay.
Or the people we know that Dad came from. Grandma.
Oh, very
Emilia.
competitive.
Very competitive, right? Even though she was a tiny little package.
No.
She was a larger than life woman.
Yeah.
I really wished I would have gotten more time to spend with Grandma. But that's neither here nor there. So you have that, and then you have Grandpa. And Grandpa was, from my understanding, was a little bit of a spitfire, a little bit of a wild card, a little bit of
a little crazy,
outlaw crazy.
Yeah. And
Grandma, I think, was his piece, and she took it as a personal challenge, not to like tame and rein this guy in, but to be an example of how life can be lived a little different if you just choose to make your choices a little differently.
Yeah.
Obviously I wish I would know more about their story, and I'd love to hear it from them. But that's some of the things I'm looking forward to interviewing our aunties and uncles about.
Okay.
So, but thinking of that about Dad,
Mm-hmm.
where did he come from? And those two people, Dad had a little bit of a competitive, like, whether it was manifested in what we think of competitive spirit is, I think he always had it deep down. Because think about all the card games we would play with. Speed, Crazy Eight,
yeah.
all that stuff. Like, he wanted to compete and he wanted to win.
Yeah.
But I think he was not too proud that when we did beat him, like, he didn't crush our spirit or anything. Like, he didn't make up excuses or anything like that. Like, he let us have our wins.
He was gracious and lost.
Yeah. And what I remember is when Dad would beat you, he wouldn't rub it in your face.
Oh, no.
He would never, ever rub it in your face. And in fact, I feel like whenever he would beat you, he would want to play again to give you an opportunity to possibly win and even it out. Like, I just feel like that's Dad. But I don't know. That's just me kind of thinking about.
I appreciate that context, because you're right. You're really right. Looking at the stock that he came from, and again, just looking at different experiences with him through a different lens of like, hey, was he competitive in this? I could totally see it. Totally could see it. I remember. I don't think it was one of the trips that you came to Hawaii with me, but I remember I was there for my birthday. And for my birthday, I think Mom and Dad had got me a skateboard. It was in the 80s, so it was one of those fat-bodied, wide skateboard. It was really long.
Is that the one the Domino's driver?
Yeah, the Dominator, yeah. It was a Dominator, but it had a Domino's sort of thing on.
No, didn't a Domino's driver drive over the top of it and broke it?
Domino's or UPS or something like that.
I thought it was a Domino's driver.
Probably someone. But back at the lake house. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember... And again, I thinking about this, trying to look at it through the lens, was Dad being competitive? Was he trying to show us up? Possibly so. At Grandma and Grandpa's house, they live off of Ailoa Street, which is right across the street from the Windward Mall on the windward side in Kaneohe. And so if you were standing looking at our grandparents' house, to the left was this gradual hill that went up, and it was a nice little bend to the left, and then you would be up at the stop sign by the street, which was straight. It wasn't like a really big hill that fed through a couple different stop signs. It just, the road went up and it teed at this level road that went left to right as you were coming up to the stop sign. So me and my cousin Isaac, we would always get our skateboards and just ride down it, whether we were sitting on it.
Yeah.
We didn't stand on it very much because we weren't really confident in standing on it, but we definitely sat on the skateboard and rode down. It was a lot of fun. But I remember Dad was there, and I think they're called penny boards. They're the little plastic 70s, really loose trucks, but very fast bearings and these really wide wheels. And I swear to God, the skateboard wasn't more than maybe 15 to 18 inches long, and maybe 5 to 6 inches wide. And I remember,
and wasn't it pointed?
It was. It was point. Yeah, it was a little. I think it was baby blue.
Yep, that's that. I know exactly which one you're talking about.
And Dad was like, "Hey, why don't you guys come ride this one?" And we're looking at. I'm like, "My fat is not going to fit on that, Dad. I've got a couch that I get to run down, and you want me to sit on that banana seat and try to run? Nah, I'm good." He's like, No, you're going to stand on them. I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Watch." On the sidewalk, Dad, he rode from the sidewalk, because the roads on Ailoa Street, you have the road that you drive on, and then each entry into the driveway, there is a severe little quarter pipe that's 8 inches tall, and then you get into the driveway. So it's not like you can go from the street into a driveway like you can here.
You either have to start and end in the street or start and end on the sidewalk. Yep. Okay.
I remember Dad kicked off up at the top, and we watched him ride down the sidewalk and speed carve into each driveway. And it was like he was surfing down the whole thing. He'd go in one driveway, loop around, come back out, turn real tight, not quite leaning and dragging his hand, but down really friggin' low, getting tight and fast as he could. Get into the next one, then he'd stand up a little bit so he could slow down, bend and lean back and carve into this driveway. And there was like 4 or 5 driveways till he got to Grandma and Grandpa's, and then he nosed the board into the grass and did like a tumble off, and he's like, "Hey, come try it." And I'm like, what the hell? No. And like we were like, "Hey, we're gonna try this on the big board." Yeah, no, we didn't get very far. But yeah, that's
I remember that we called it a banana board.
Yeah.
And I remember I never got the courage to go all the way up to the corner, because that was the test. If you could get all the way up to the corner and ride it all the way down and then bomb it, and you would basically bail into the yard.
Yeah.
I only got like two
houses
we
up. Started like, hey, we're gonna start at this one. Okay, we're good. Okay, let's go up to the next house.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's like 5 houses till you get to the top. Yep.
And you would use the little sections of the sidewalk. It'd be like, okay, let's go up one more little section.
Yeah.
Okay, go up one more section. Dude, one more, and we're up to the next driveway. So yeah, and we would just slowly, gain momentum and then just slowly carve, we were carving. We were just like, just stay on the board, jump off. But yeah, I wish that's something I would have done a little bit more, was, try a little bit more. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved riding our bikes, but skating was like, I always loved roller skating, rollerblading.
Yeah.
But I never tried skateboarding, and I'm kind of bummed, man. I just don't know if I'm built,
Yeah, we're not built for that, dude. I know I'm not.
I'm more of a water sports guy.
Oh,
I
totally.
think, bodyboarding, surfing,
laying
boogie
down.
boarding. Yeah. When I fall, I want it to be squishy. And now granted, it might muffle me and drown me. That's a whole different challenge, but I don't know. I just feel safer in water for some reason, even though my biggest fear is to die by a creature in water. But well, feel free to get context from episode 1. Noah's biggest fear.
Yeah. Oh, shoots, man.
So, a couple of things to kind of wrap things up. So, our next episode, we are going to continue into our questions into the teenage years, about talking about Paola and I's teenage years, and, some of those questions that we wished we would have been able to ask Dad, and maybe discuss that a little bit further. So, we just want to kind of continue with those episodes. But on top of that, something we are really excited about is having our first official live guest. And so I just want to go ahead and put this out there, but we are going to have our sister, the trifecta, the third musketeer, Duena Gail Kalehulu o Mamo Lester. She is going to be joining us and answering some of those same questions that we asked in episode 1 about her childhood, because as her siblings, her younger brother and her
older brother, definitely,
we wanted to kind of know her perspective about like what were her memories as a kid, and what were her challenges as a kid, and maybe earliest memories, and does she remember the trailer park? Does she remember moving to the lake house? And for further context, I would like to say we say lake house, but we were not on the lake.
Yeah, we were not that.
We were
rich.
across the street from the houses that were on the lake, and our view was completely blocked by not only trees on our side of the road, but a football field worth of trees and the houses on the other side of the road. So the road was called Long Lake Drive.
Yeah.
And we had access to the lake, down further down on our street, and then if we went up to the main roads. But so when we say lake house, we're referring to our house over by Long Lake. We called it the lake house because that was the closest we ever lived was to a lake. So anyways, lots of great things to look forward to. More episodes, like I said, deeper conversations about us and more of these questions, and really looking forward to having Duena on, man. I don't know about you, man, but I'm stoked to hear her perspective on our childhood, and to help fill people's context about some of the conversations we've already had, mentioning her, and be interesting to hear her perspective and thoughts about Dad.
Well, I think it'd be cool too, because I think there was a lot of little nuggets that we learned about each other throughout it too. So I think that, I mean, we all know things about each other's past that whenever a subject's brought up, that, are they going to talk about this? I mean, some of the answers I'm already thinking, I bet Duena is going to talk about this, but I'm actually, maybe there's something else, and whatever it may be. And I'm excited to to again hear her story from her side, not just.
Well, we already started kind of doing that, thinking like, how do you think she's going to answer that?
Yeah.
I think he's going to do it this way. No, I think she might answer this way.
Yeah,
so it's going to be good, man.
Yeah,
I'm excited. So
just in closing, man, if you could make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. You know what? We appreciate everybody out there who's been leaving comments on our Facebook post too. But if you could, make sure you comment on here. If what I would like to know is if there is, in thinking about the context of this podcast and what it's really meant for, of course, we don't get the opportunity to ask these questions to the loved ones that we really wish we would have had the opportunity to. Mm-hmm. But if there's any questions that you wish you could have asked someone who is no longer in your life, we would love to know what that is, because even though you may not be able to get that answer from that person, maybe that's a question that the answer we share may be able to help someone else out, or again, just to tell the story, or again, help you learn a little bit maybe about us. So please, if you can, if there's any questions you would like to have or like us to ask each other, make sure you comment down below.
Maybe we'll give you a little name drop too, man. Give
Definitely.
You a little call out on the show and, say, hey, this question comes from so-and-so, and thank you for participating. So I'm really excited. I think another thing I'd like to do, I didn't really cover this with you, man, but just something I was thinking is, we have this great kind of backdrop that we've put together. Mm-hmm. We've put in work and thought into some of these items, and I thought it might be cool occasionally, just a little time filler if we ever need, is to bring an item down and kind of talk about it. So I brought this book down not because of that reason, but I don't know, just getting emotional about Dad. I felt like I needed to have him here,
close.
have him close, and so I appreciate this book. So to just give a little context on it, this is a book that the city of Lacey put together for my dad, with all these great pictures and stories that people wrote about him, memories that they had about Dad, and they gifted it to him. This was for his memorial.
Yeah, it was for his memorial.
This was for his memorial. So this was actually specifically made for his memorial.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can read this. We were each given copies, and I read through maybe one or two of them, and I couldn't get through them without bawling. So it's hard for me to read them. So even having somebody read them to me, I was just crying even harder. So I was like, stop reading. But they are so amazing, and to hear, other people's perspectives, like you said, or we had mentioned, hearing somebody else's context of what Dad meant to them, I think is really, really, really cool to hear. So,
well, I think that's one of the cool things about Dad, is he perpetuated, just like you said, that aloha spirit, which is just a very inviting, inclusive thing, even though you may not feel like you're deserving of whatever it is that, of being in that.
Yeah.
But he was so free, willingly giving of it, that I love it, because we've said, these are his co-workers, but a lot of these stories, they're not about him at work.
Yeah.
They're about who he was to them. And a lot of them are just how he just was, like, and just their feelings about seeing someone like that, whether they knew him after Iraq or before, or both before and through Iraq, and his treatments with cancer and everything like that. So it gives a really great insight on who our dad was to these people at his work, which is really awesome. And I haven't been able to get through many of them either. But it's cool. I'm glad to have it. Cool. Glad to have it. So we're glad that you're here with us too.
Yes.
So please, again, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Love you, and a hui ho.
Love and aloha. A hui ho.